With this massive storm this early in the season, I thought it'd be a good time to go over my winter layering kit, my winter clothing, to help you make some good decisions. So it's not about the weather, it's all about the clothing, it's all about the layering, it's all about the equipment. Speaking of equipment, shoes. Today, I am using the Salomon S Lab Cross. This is a new shoe that has kind of like a booty fit to it. And what I'm finding is that it's wonderful in snow. Obviously, I was in deep snow. Even when I'm on the road here, I was still running in 3 to 4 inches of snow. And it was excellent for that. But anytime I hit an icy patch underneath the snow, I lost purchase. So I'm finding that maybe the tread is not the best for slick conditions. The plow just went through, so now I have a plowed road, and the grip just is not good. I should say it's not as good as when in snow. So that's what I want to find out. I already have my Salomon S Lab Sense 8 soft ground, which I know they have a different lug pattern and a different lug configuration. So I know they are excellent in snow, and I just wanted to try these Cross out this year and see what the good thing about these is that they're water resistant, or I should say weather resistant. They're not waterproof, but which goes back to maybe how I'm going to use these is when we get snow dumps like today. So I get a little protection in the upper and the lugs that I need for powder. So let's go back to the training garage and go over my layering system, my winter kit. Boom, and welcome to the Toasty Garage. So let's talk what cold is first. Here in Jackson, it gets pretty cold in the winter. It is so beautiful, but it's twice as cold this morning as it was last morning, -30. But look at this. Just crazy beautiful this morning. We're out on Jackson Lake doing a little ice fishing. So beautiful. And so when we're talking, or when I'm talking today about my layering system and I talk about cold, I'm going to refer mainly to below 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And I've run in, actually got a message from a runner out there, one of you guys on Instagram, Patricia, from Clark, Wyoming. It was cool to hear from someone from Wyoming. And she asked what was my threshold temperature for running. And I answered her, I would say about -20 degrees Fahrenheit. I've gone a little bit below that, but I found that's kind of my threshold, where once you get below -20, it tends to get pretty chilly. But having said that, when it's really cold here in Jackson, it's typically very sunny. So that means it's very cold, but also very dry. When it snows, it tends to be a little warmer, above 20, just in general. And so it tends to be a little damper. Okay, so just take this into account when you're hearing what I'm talking about cold being and how it relates to your situation. For example, I have athletes up in Wisconsin, and their winters are much different. They get very cold temperatures, but they're also very damp and very wet. So in general, my cold temperatures, our winters tend to be very dry. Okay, so having said that, let's jump into it. So I'm first going to start with my socks. So I typically pick a knee-high sock. This is a Smartwool. And so I like wool because it just tends to kind of keep you super warm, obviously, but if you do get wet, it tends to just perform a little bit better than synthetic. And also I want to mention that none of the brands that I'm going to mention are a sponsor of mine. Like I mentioned, just with shoes, I don't really accept sponsorship unless it's something very unique. So I'm going to mention brands just for reference, but for no other reason than just to give you something maybe to look at when you're kind of figuring out your own kit. So, so let me back up before socks. So what I start with is I always start with a compression tight down to just above the knee for my base layer. And then upper, I have a nice, just breathable, tight fitting. It's not compression. It's very, very, very breathable. But I always will put this up above as my base layer, regardless of what I'm putting on over it. So this is what I start with, including the knee-high socks. So I'm going to put the socks on. Okay, so now got the socks on. So then my next decision is going to be on tights. And again, we're talking cold temperatures, so something below 20 degrees. I go away from kind of your typical running tights, which we all have, to a fleece lined tight, or more specifically, a bib tight. So I have two that I use. So this is actually a cycling bib tight from Pearl Izumi. And you can see the tight. Even though it's a cycling tight, you can find cycling tights that don't have pads. So this is a cycling tight bib that, most importantly, is fleece lined. And I don't know if you can see that, but that's where the warmth come in. The outer layer is just like a normal tight, but it's the fleece lining that gives me that warmth that I need for these very, very cold temperatures. So, got my bibs on, and the reason I go with a bib, and I'll pull it on in a minute, but the bib, well, I can take it off. So I'm pulling and so then here's the bib. The reason I go with a bib, I like to have all of my upper clothing kind of tucked in and secured, almost kind of like the feeling of a sleeping bag, where everything's kind of tucked in. I don't want any air going in between the waist, my upper clothing, and my lower clothing. So I find that having a bib allows that to happen, and it just makes it, I don't know, I just kind of like the feel of it. Everything's secure, there's no wind blowing in. I just like the feel of it, and also it just provides a little warmth into the back. And again, it's I just like that feeling. The other tight I have, bib tight, has a zipper, and this is wool. So, and it's a little heavier. This is by Ashmei, which is a UK company. And again, it's fleece lined, but it's also wool. So I will use this. It's just a little heavier weight than the pair I have on. So if I'm going, minus 10, minus 20 degrees, I will pull this tight out and use this one for really, really cold temperatures. But again, it's got the fleece lining, and everything else kind of fits like the Pearl Izumis here. Okay, so now that I've got my tight decision taken care of, I'm going to pull this down. The next decision is going to be on what I'm going to layer on with my top. So let's go with what we'll call warm cold temperatures, where it's maybe kind of that under 20 degrees to 0 degrees where it's cold, but hey, it's not below 0 yet, okay? And this is one of the most important pieces of layering that I have to my system. And this is a hoodie, a zip hoodie, but the key is the waffle fleece lined inside. You can see that. This waffle fleece, get real close there so you can see it. This waffle fleece is just amazing. It's super, super warm, but it's also super, super breathable. So on these warmer cold days, this is really all I need aside from my outer layer. So this is what's going to provide the warmth for those days. So that this waffle fleece line, look for that. Super, super important because it'll be super warm but super breathable. And it's this mid layer that's most important. And when we're layering, I've got my base layer for breathability. I've got my mid layer for warmth. So my mid layer has to be what's providing most of my warmth. And the outer layer is more out of protection. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so mid layer on warmer, cold days. And zip that up. We'll talk about the head in a minute, but obviously this has got a hood. What's nice about the hood is it's got a zipper that goes all the way up. And again, we'll talk about above the neck in a minute, okay? So here's my warmer, colder days, okay? I'm gonna take this off again. And we're gonna talk about the cold, cold days. Now I have a fleece high turtleneck. Okay, and this is a cycling piece by Rapha. And it's good, again, it's got a high turtleneck, but it has that same kind of waffle fleece that you can kind of see. It's a little thinner, but this is more of a base layer that I'm going to put on over this for my cold, cold days. So again, fleece lined, it's got the waffle fleece inside, so it's going to be super, super warm. Okay, so now I've got this other base layer on with fleece lining, super, super cold temperatures. I can tuck this into my bib. And again, this is why I like the bibs, because you can really tuck it in and there's just no skin exposure whatsoever in through here because of the bib. I can pull everything, pull my bib over everything, and it's just nice, a nice clean feeling in through here. All right, so I've got, you can see, I can even pull this turtleneck way up for when I'm starting to warm up. Or we'll talk about head in a minute, but this allows air to warm when I'm breathing in, especially when I'm warming up. And then as I warm up, I can kind of pull it down and it's not constricting, okay? And just acts as a normal turtleneck, okay? So got my bibs on. Then I'm gonna grab my hoodie again. And again, this is all for warmth. On cold, cold days. Okay, so now I've got my hoodie on. Okay. Okay, so now I've got my white base layer, I've got my turtleneck base layer, and I've got my fleece zip hoodie. This is all, really all the warmth I need. So now I'm gonna pick the outer shell or jacket that I need to go with this. And I mentioned typically when things are really cold, it's really sunny, I don't need a whole lot, so I don't necessarily need protection, and that's normally what an outer layer is for protection. Mid layers are for warmth, outer layers are for protection. So in my case, it might either be wind or snow. In warmer temperatures, protection could mean rain. So I'm just picking what I need for protection that day. And again, most of the time when it's really cold, it's sunny, it's not snowing. So therefore, I'm only really kind of being concerned about wind. So I pick a jacket. This is just by Ashmei, again, that UK company. Again, just letting you know, I have a variety of jackets that I'll put over, but this is one where I like because it's also wool in strategic areas. So we put it on here. Okay, so I have wind and moisture protection in front. Let me zip it up here. Okay, so in the front is wind and moisture protection. On the outside, I have that same protection. Wind, snow, rain. You can see the seam. Here's protection. Here's a lining of wool that's just there to allow me to breathe. And I have the same, I have a zip pits here so I can zip, unzip, and let out some air and if I'm climbing a hill, hey, I'm gonna get warm, I can unzip these and breathe a little bit more. Then when I'm at the top of the hill, I zip it back up, and going downhill, it's gonna get a little cold, okay? So again, a lot of breathability and function there. And now you can see where this wool panel continues to the back. And so on the back, I don't necessarily need wind protection, I just need it in front. That's all breathable behind there with the breathable flap that you can see up and through here. So this is all breathable, okay? Which again, just adds a little bit of breathability and a little bit of warmth with everything I need. But again, the outer is mostly about protection, so I get the wind protection I need, okay? Okay, sometimes on super cold days, I have another jacket that I use. And again, this is fleece lined. This is a cycling jacket from Rapha. And a couple of reasons why I picked this on super cold days. One, it's just now I've got a little bit more warmth with the fleece. I've got the outer protection that we talked about, wind and some precipitation. But super cold days, zippers are very hard to use. So if you're having to get in your pockets, or if you're out on a long run and you need to unzip or just get stuff out of pockets, you don't want to necessarily take your hands out of your mittens and do that barehanded. So being a cycling jacket, these have back pockets that just slip in. So if I'm layered up and things start to get warmer, I can maybe take some of my hats off that we'll talk about in a minute and just put them in with my back pocket. Okay, again, without having to really pull my glove, my mittens off, have to try to navigate getting the zippers open when it's really cold out. It's just boom, in. I can keep food back there. I can keep even some water bottles back there if I need to. It's just easy access with anything, okay? But with that, I also need to mention that I will, on long runs, I will also wear a hydration vest in between my mid layer and my outer layer. So it'll be on top of this red piece that I'll have my water and my phone and anything that I want to keep warm and out of the elements. And then I'll put my outer jacket over that. That vest also adds a layer of warmth. So that's something else that you can use as a layering system. Okay. I'll get into the equipment, hydration systems, what I do when it's cold, another video, but I just want to mention from a layering system, a vest, a hydration system can be used as a layer, piece of layer. All right. Sometimes during the winter, I love running at night. It's just very peaceful. Again, our snow is very dry, so it doesn't get icy. We get hard packed snow on roads, on trails. So winter running here in Jackson Hole is just really, really tremendous and one of my favorite times to run. It's just unbelievable. And you'll see of all the videos to come. It's just truly an amazing experience to run on cold, dry, tacky snow. Again, it's very rare that it gets icy because it is so dry and cold here. So I will choose sometimes to run at night just because it's just so peaceful. The snow's crunchy. You throw on a headlamp and it's just a great experience. But with that, I mentioned that earlier when things are really cold here in the day, the sun's out and that helps with warmth. But at night, obviously the sun goes away. So we lose that as warmth. So cold temperatures at night just feel a little colder because we don't have the sun. So sometimes I will pick just a regular lightweight puffy jacket with a hood for night running. And this will go over maybe a jacket like this or maybe the other blue jacket. Just kind of dependent on the temperatures. It's kind of a game day decision. But that'll go over and I'll zip it up. And again, I've got the hood to really sock me in. And again, it's just a way to really, really keep me warm at night and just a nice layer that I found because typically when it's dark out, you're not running as fast. So you're not maybe working up as much energy and to stay warm. So you tend to stay just a little bit cooler at night. And I found going with the down or the synthetic down puffy really kind of works for me. And you're not sweating a lot. So breathability isn't necessarily an issue. So again, this is just something I wanted to mention if you're out there in the night, which I highly recommend. Now I'm ready from the neck down. And let's go neck up. Again, it really kind of depends on how cold is. So on a warmer, colder days, all that I might need to do is go with my hoodie. Zip it up. And then a fleece hat. Okay? And again, the reason I like this hoodie is it zips up, it covers my ears, everything's covered. I like nice things nice and snug, no exposure whatsoever. So again, warmth. And then my hat, outer hat, should be what's our outer layer? It's meant for protection. And again, most of the time when it's cold, it's sunny. So I don't need any real water, snow protection. So I usually pick the fleece hat for just a little bit more warmth. If it's warmer out, I'm gonna pick a hat. If it's gonna be snowing, I'm just gonna pick a hat that's gonna take care of some of the snow. Okay, so this is where I would be with and I'll zip this up. Here's my above the neck with warmer, colder days. Okay, but let's go cold days. And this is where it gets important. So I'm going to take a buff, put it over, and I'm here. So you can see, depending on comfort level, all I needed is around my head. I don't need it up here yet. Okay, it's just acting as another layer underneath my hood. That again, I just like that secure feeling. It's breathable. The buff is breathable, so it's not going to be too confining. If I need to pull things up, I can down. But then, again, we're talking below zero, long runs. I'm taking a baklava, okay? Fleece lined, and this is going over everything. And what this is doing, other than the obvious, I can tuck it in, giving me, again, that surround fit, that surround, no wind's gonna get in, but having this here is really gonna allow me to breathe in warmer air. One thing that you need to be aware of when the temperatures get really cold is obviously the air is cold, and especially if you're doing a lot of hills, you're gonna breathe in cold air, and having this to warm the air as you breathe it in is just really beneficial just for your throat. I've sometimes in climbing will have sucked in cold air at a high altitude, and it just chaps your throat a little bit, just like chapped lips. You just get it in your throat and it just gives you a little sore throat. So I found that this helps eliminate that. Without it, again, it's very easy to breathe through. And then when I warm up or the temperatures warm up, I can just flip it down. Or at that point, I may even take this off altogether, which is the point of layering it, is that when I start, the hardest part about cold weather running is just getting going. So I may wear this for an hour or so, and I've literally been out where it's so cold that I've had to run backwards to face the sun to warm my backside. So I'm running away from the sun's behind me, and my front gets cold. I turn around and run backwards to have the air, or to have the sun warm me for a little bit, and then turn around and just almost like a rotisserie. So it's that cold, and the sun makes that much of a difference. But having the layering system up in your head is just as important as a layering system down here. So you have flexibility. I warm up, the temperatures warm up a little bit. Again, there's a big difference between -5 and even 0. Then I can take this off and go with the other layering system I have on. I may even start out like this. Okay, -20. Super toasty. You don't get cold, especially in our climate where it's not humid. This is my cold days. Then I can, again, take this off, take my buckle off, maybe put the hat back on, or take my hood off. There's just a lot of flexibility without a whole lot of bulk. And that's the key. All right. Shades. I use these old pair of Oakleys that I love. You're not going to be able to find these anymore, but the point being is that you're going to be able to find something similar. You can see how they're curved, and they really wrap my head. So again, they almost act like goggles, where you can see they just wrap around. There's hardly any air able to get in, and you can see the little air holes in the glasses themselves. So that helps limit your fogging up. But the key is having that wrap, so not a whole lot of air or wind is getting in, and so you get protection there. Especially in the snow with the sun, you're getting reflection off the snow from the sun, it's very, very bright. So you want something that's going to really, really wrap, almost like a mountaineering style goggle that goes all the way around to just allow all that sun rays to be, you'll be protected from the sun rays and the wind. Okay. And the other key thing is if it's super cold, you don't want to take your glasses off too much, because as soon as you do, you're letting moisture, you're letting different air temperatures in and out. That's where it can get foggy. Okay, so keep your glasses on, don't take them off. What's missing? Hands? So I go with just good old mittens. Okay, mittens are key. Don't go the glove route. I go Gore-Tex, again, for just a little bit of protection from the wind. Okay, maybe a little bit of moisture if you get it. But I got high, kind of mountaineering style fit, so they go up, so you're protecting some of your wrist. You can also have your watch on the outside, and that protects your watch without having to have your watch underneath all your layers. And it's just a really, really good fit. And the mittens keep your hands nice and toasty. What I do is I size up a size. I'm usually a medium. I go large. I found that in cold temperatures, having a little bit more room in the mitten area just allows airflow to warm and stay, keep you warm, whereas a tight fitting, I tend to get a little colder, actually. So go size up a little bit so your air can kind of create a little bit of a warm pocket in your mittens. And then you even have room for your hand warmers if you want to use those, but I really don't use those much. So all right, there you have it. I'm ready for winter. That's my system. And I will be going over my winter shoe system in another video, so that's why I'm not going to touch on shoes here. But play around with the philosophy I set out today, and just let me know your questions and we'll get you set up for winter. You know the saying, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing, and it's so, so true. All right, I'm out of here.